So I'm gonna come in here and do annotation real quick so that I know what we got. Okay, today we're gonna make a lav wireless microphone. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, what I want to do is come in. Let's clear the scene out, and I'll get rid of this light. And I'm going to start with the cube. And I'm going to scale it down here. And I took some measurements of this cube. And let's bring out the end panel. And let's plug in the measurements for the depth, the height, and the length. So let's start here, annotating some things here. So I'm going to do X is going to be 0.6 inches, and then that'll be the width. So let's just say width. Then the depth is going to be 0. I think it was 4 when I measured it, and then the height equals 2.5 inches. So these are the measurements I'm going to plug in here real quick. So we notice that dimensions on my Blender in meters, I don't usually change it, but Blender is smart enough to know you can change it to other units by explicitly typing it in the box here. So the first one for the width, I'm going to do 0.6 and then space IN. And if you notice it updated here, Y will basically be like the depths of 0.4 inches, and then Z up and down. And when you're looking at front ortho like I am, that'll be our height. So it'll be 2.5 inches. So then that's the full height of the microphone. So this gives us something to get started with. And if I zoom out and rotate a little bit, you can see that what it looks like. All right, so since our scale is off, we want to go ahead and change the scale. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the scale here. And then we'll start modeling from here. But this gives us a good basis to start from. Okay, let's go in here. And let's change some edges here, because this real microphone has a nice beveled edge. And I want to try to mimic that in our model here. So I'm going to bevel these like so, just to get like the basic shape. And then once we come here, I'm going to select the two faces. Might help if I hit the right key. I'll inset, vertex mode, and then what I want to do from here is I just want to start like cleaning up the geometry a little bit, just so we don't have weird n-gons here. And it's pretty simple stuff that we're doing thus far. Oop. Okay. And then what I want to do is do the same thing on the other side. We'll worry about filling this in later. Not going to worry about it at the moment though. Okay, and let's take a look at what we have here. So that's good. Okay, so one thing I want to go ahead and do here, let me save my file, is I want to mimic this out where there's a protrusion that comes from the top. It's cylindrical in shape, and this is where the actual microphone is separate from the body, or the part of the microphone that listens to the sound, away from the electronics. And we need to figure out how we want to come in here and make this part. So let's go ahead and do that by adding in some loop cuts here. 2, 3, let's do about 4. And here in the front, I don't want too many because I don't want too much geometry here. And let's do 3. And then go to vertex selection mode, go to the top. And this should give us a spot here where we can come in here and make this protrusion. So one thing I'm seeing here is there's a lot of surface area up here. So I want to select all of this. which might be a bit much, but we'll see. Let's inset it in like so. I want to scale it in on X, get it to look a little bit more like a square, and then I'm going to take my old trusty Luke tools and make a circle here. Then I'm going to scale this down like so. Don't need to scale it down a lot, but you don't want these vertices too close together either. Then I'm going to inset again, and then I'm going to look at it from the front view, and I want to extrude this up on the Z-axis to see if that looks too big. So far, I think this looks about accurate to what the model looks like, which you'll see a link to the product in the description of this video. And this is a good place just to get that part there started. Another thing we need to look at is on the side of the microphone, there's a little port over here. This is like one of these little cheap $20 mics off of Amazon. It's very basic, but you know, it has some modeling challenges in it that I thought would be applicable to this video. But on this side here is a USB-C charger. So we want to make a place where we can make this hole. And let's just go right now and figure this out. So I want to do something similar. I want to create some loop cuts, but I want to be able to control them. So I'm going to put one here, kind of around like near the top of where it is on the actual mic, which is up. It's actually pretty high up here. Hold on, let me do this. My mouse was off screen, so it didn't take it. And I want to come here and I want to make another one. Like so. It doesn't need to be too big, and this gives us a boundary. So this gives us this place. If I do a face selection here, this gives us a little place where we can start building this out. And since these are let me go here to the side. Since these got these vertex here, what I want to do is I want to move my 3D cursor in the center of all of this. So I'm going to do cursor to selected. It's going to put it in the center, and then I'm going to change my point here, midpoint here, to the cursor, and then I want to scale these guys in. Oh, hold on, I told you wrong. Oh, we need one more loop cut. Need one more vertical loop cut here. Just give me a second here, guys. Hopefully that's not gonna be bad. I think it's okay. We'll see. So let's take these vertices again, these corner vertices, not the ones in the middle, and I want to scale them like so, and it's going to give us a shape similar to this. And then what I want to do is scale these out on Y, kind of straighten them up a little bit, and this is going to allow us, once we come in here and select everything in the middle, and then I go back to medium point, and then I inset. This is going to allow us to make a rounded edge up here and down here once we apply the subdivision modifier to this. So I've got this here, and then what I want to do is I want to extrude on the normals. And what I want to do is I want to suck it in, because it's going to be kind of like the inside of that port, like so. And for now, let's just leave it alone. So this gives us something. Now we haven't cleaned anything up yet, but I'm just gonna demonstrate something. It's not gonna be perfect, but I just want to demonstrate it. See the shape that we have here that we just made for this USB-C port, and what we would expect. Give me 1 second. I just noticed something here. Let me change my clip start. It's by adding a 0 in there, and then I shouldn't be getting cut off like that anymore. So I should be able to zoom in. So what I'm talking about is, see this edge here, this shape that we've got, and I'm saying that, hey, when we apply a subdivision modifier on this, it ought to round it out. I'm going to apply a level 2 sub D on it and see how it does it. Now, granted, we have to clean it up. We've got to restrict how the edges are applied to it, so it doesn't just, look crazy like that. But you can see up here we had those points. See how it just curved, like it just rounded off, it curved it off really nice. This is what I've been talking about in a lot of my videos about sub D. Sub D will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Your job is just to restrict where it does it. So in this case, I wouldn't want it looking like an oval like this. I would, I'd want these lines here to be a little bit more straight. Nice little edge here and here. And on the inside, I don't want to be able to control it. So like say here and here, I'm just going to demonstrate something else. This is not fixing it. This is just to demonstrate a point. So I put a mean crease of 1 on it, and I'm going to turn sub D back on again. See, and it's a little bit straighter now than it was before. That kind of thing is what I'm talking about. So, hold on, let me back out of that. Okay, so sub D does a lot of this work for you, is what I'm saying. So we're going to keep modeling because like in all of our videos, what we typically do is we just make the primitive shape first, and then we go back in and we just start cleaning stuff up. So right now we've modeled in the USB-C port, and we've modeled in the protrusion up here, or at least part of it. I'm gonna actually take the mic. I know you guys can't see it, which is probably not helpful at all to these videos for you, but you're just gonna have to trust me on this one. Because I'm not using a reference photo, I actually have the physical thing in front of me. I'm gonna go ahead and model this out while we're going here. So I'm going to protrude this out just a hair, just a little bit, and then I'm going to extrude it up on Z, like so. And what I want to do is, because this essentially is kind of like a grid fill almost, I want to kill all of these faces. I want to select these edges, and you'll see why here in a second, because I'm explicitly trying to get a shape here. And then I'm going to extrude this down just a little bit. And then I'm going to bring it in like so. And then I'm going to do a grid fill right here. Oop, hold on. Didn't mean to hit beautify faces. You go up here and clean this up just a little bit. Okay. All right. So you've got this basic shape. So the version of it I have, when you take like the little wind protector thing off, it essentially looks like this here. It does have some little grips on it here, so I could just go here. Let me see, 1, 2, 3. Let's bevel these guys out just a little bit like that. That's bevel 2. Let's do 1 on each one of these, and you're going to see what I'm going to do. I'm going to come here. I'm going to extrude faces on normals, and I want it to protrude out. Boom, like that. So it looks something like this here. And then the microphone here, it's got like all these little holes in it. I don't know if we need to model this. I mean, if you guys want to see how to do it, leave it in the comments, and I'll do a follow-up on this video showing you how to do it. However, this is all this stuff's going to be pretty much hidden. I just wanted to show you what this part looked like, because I'm going to stick like the little wind piece over the top of it, so you won't even see the stuff we modeled. But if you want me to continue and show you how to do the little grid holes in there, I'll show you how to do that. It's fairly easy. Okay. So here's a good place to just kind of look at what we've done. So we've made the basic shape. We've scaled it to the size after I made measurements on the real thing. We've made this extruded piece where the microphone goes in. And we've also basically sculpted out the USB-C port, which is like the charger. Now, one thing we're going to hit next is there are some pieces on the back where the clip is. So we're going to make the clip. And then the plan is we're going to come back in and we're going to bevel this thing off so it looks more like the real product that's physically in my hands. Okay, so the next thing I want to try to tackle here with this model is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start defining out the shape of the front. I'm not worried so much about the topology because we can tighten that up and clean that up later. So I want to come in here and select all of these faces, and the way this thing looks is this piece right here protrudes out a little bit. So I'm going to hit G and Y, and I'm going to bring it out about right here, and then it's got like a bit of an inset and then like almost like a sharp bevel. So I'm gonna bring it in about that much. I want to be careful on these corners and make sure that they are not they're not cut into too much, because then that would look kind of weird. And then I'm going to protrude these out just a hair, not much. I like that. And this looks about like what the thing looks like. So I'm going to save my file, and then I'm going to come here to the back, and let's see how we'll do this. Let's put in some support loops here. Not a whole lot. Like I said, we can clean this up later. This ought to be enough. And I want to come to the back, and I want to look at my vertices here. Now, the way this thing is shaped is there's an extrusion on the back. It's cylindrical in shape a little bit, and then it's got like a little rotating piece there, and then there's the clip. Also at the bottom, there's a little push button there. It's got this little beveled edge on it where the power button is. So I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to go ahead and make that first. So let's, instead of going to vertex mode, let's go to face mode. I'm going to inset this down, and I'm going to go to loop tools, and I'm going to make a circle like so. And I'm going to scale it down a little bit, make sure we don't have overlapping geometry here. And if that looks, I'm looking at it here, that's a bit small. So let me back up a little bit. Let's grab some more faces. Yeah, I think that works better. And let's just go, instead of insetting it, let's see what it looks like if I just hit circle. Yeah, I like that better. That looks more accurate. All right, so I want to insert here. Actually, let me go back up. Let me protrude this out on Y, like so. I like that. And then what I want to do is I want to scale this down just a little bit. Zoom in so we can see a little bit better. Then I'm going to inset like so, just a hair. And then I'm going to extrude this back in like that. Maybe not that much. I'm going to inset again just a little bit. And then I'm going to extrude this back out. So you see like a little gap between that little button there. So it looks like after we model this, it'll look like you can push it in. Let me scale that back in just a little bit. Try to line it up with this here. Okay. Let's see it from the side. Give me a second here, guys. And let's do X-ray mode. I'm trying to line up this edge right here with this edge here with this edge here. So I'm going to bring it out just a little bit. About right there. I want it to line up almost perfectly. So then when we come back out, we've got our power button right here. Okay, and I'm not going to sculpt the power button symbol. We can use displacement or bump map or something like that later. We'll do that. We'll do that before the end of the video. But for now, I just want to make that basic shape. So let's go here to the back of the model again, and let's go back to vertex mode, because I want to figure out roughly how many of these pieces here I want for that little extruded piece where the clip hooks in. So the reason why I'm going to vertex mode is I'm just kind of like counting in my head here to kind of figure out where I want this. So I'm going to go back to face selection mode, and I don't want to select it all the way at the edge. I don't think. You know what? I'll say that. Yeah, let's just go ahead. Let's grab this grid right here of vertices, and I'm going to go to loop tool circle. Going to scale them in. And if it starts looking like it's screwing with the geometry, I'm going to back it up, which it does. Like I said, you guys get to see me kind of try to figure this out in real time. I did make one of these, but I'm making this one a little bit differently than I made the other one. Yeah, I think this is going to work here. I'm looking at my geo. Yep, this is the way I want to do it. And let's see, I'm looking at the piece in my hand. And let's extrude this out like so. And I'm looking to see if it tapers. And it does just a little bit. Not a whole lot. And we're going to basically do the same thing. We're going to inset. Going to inset a little bit more. I'm going to bring it in like so. Going to inset. just a little bit. And then I'm going to bring it back out like that. Going to turn to the side, X-ray mode. I think we might have nailed it. Yeah, pretty perfect. All right. So this is the piece right here where the clip is connected to. This piece down here will be a button where you turn the unit on and off. If you hold it down or if you tap it, I think it'll do like a muted mode or something else. Okay, so I'm good with this right here for now. So let's go back and let's go to the front and let's finish sculpting out. So there's like a little LED screen on here where like these little buttons light up. And all I really want to do is I want to figure out what part of the geometry here I want to select to make that. And let's do vertex mode here, because the first thing I need to do is select some vertices here to kind of get the primitive shape down. And it is rounded. So I'll select that one and that one. And let's move the 3D cursor in between like so. I want to change the pivot point to the 3D cursor. Right. And then I want to select, now that we've got these two selected, I knew where I wanted the verts. So now that I've got the 3D cursor in the section here I want, I'm going to go all the way out here to the edge, here and here. And I want to bring it down to about here and here. And then I want to scale like so, because what I'm trying to do is make this primitive shape. And then from here, I'm going to go to face selection. And I'm going to scale this all the way down and over like so to select all these guys. And this is going to be about the space that I need for that little screen. And really all I want to do is I'm going to do something similar to what we did with the pieces on the back. I'm going to inset just a hair like so. Let me zoom in a little bit so we can see a little bit better. Then I'm going to extrude it inward, not by a lot. Going to inset it in again. And I'm going to extrude it back out. And we're going to do like we did before. I'm going to turn it to the side. And I'm going to do X-ray mode. I'm going to try to line it up. So I went a little bit too far here. Getting about right there. Right? Turn X-ray off. And then what I want to do from here, I'm looking, while I'm talking to you, I'm kind of looking at the unit in my hand too. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different than it is. I'm going to bring it out just a little bit. So when we render it, I think you'll be able to see it a little bit better. All right, let's save that. So let's kind of look at it. So there's that little screen in the front. And like I said, don't worry about edge loops and all that stuff yet. We can do that later. We clean all that stuff up later. So let's make sure we got most of this stuff checked. So I got the little microphone piece checked. Got the USB-C port check. You know, we can make like the little piece in the middle of that little post in the middle of it. We can do that later because I think we got geometry there where we can do it. And if not, we can make the geometry to do it. That's not hard. Maybe we sculpt that in there later. I don't really want to screw with it right now, but we got the part here for the screen with like a nice little beveled edge in there. We've got on the back the power button down here, and then we've got like the little bracket piece to the plastic where the clip hooks on. And I guess the next thing we need to make is the clip itself. So we'll do that here in a second. All right, so the next thing I want to do is create the base for this little clip here. So I'm going to go to face select mode. And what I want to do is I'm going to select all of these faces here. And I want to hit Shift and D, right click, and then I want to hit P, like so, and then go back to object mode. So now I just want to select the second piece there that we had, and let's go back to the side view here. And I want to bring it out just a hair, like so. Go to edit mode. We can do edit face mode, doesn't matter, like so. And I want to extrude this back, not much, because I'm going to bring it back a little bit. I want it kind of thin, just eyeballing it, if you will. Let's turn X-ray on, and I want to bring it back where it touches that other piece, like this. Something about like that. All right. I just want it to be shown that it's a separate piece. And let's double check. Let's make sure our normals look good on this. And of course they're flipped. So let's go back and let's hit Shift in. And now they're blue. So now our normals are good. Let me turn face orientation off. And what I want to do is this is going to be the little rotating base piece on the clip. But I want to go in here and rename this model.mic.clip. And go ahead and save our file. Okay, so now as we look at the clip, what we notice is there's like a little square piece that comes off of it. So I do want to make that part of that same mesh. So let's go back into face selection mode. I want to create these. I want to hit these 3 squares right here. Actually, let me see. I said 3, I meant 4. Let's just do all of these here. Let's do an inset because I don't need it that big. And then let's extrude this out on Y like so. Not by much, about right here. And then I want to scale it in just a little bit. It's very subtle, but it does scale in just a little. Okay. And now you can see that now we have this little piece here that'll rotate. And now we have the base piece right here. What we're going to model next is the bottom clip that clips on your lapel of your shirt. And then we're going to do like the little support brackets for that. And then we're going to build the top clip and or the spring. I may do the spring and then do the other piece. But right now we're going to do this bottom. I call it the bottom clip. And you guys will see what that's like. So let's go ahead and go to vertex selection mode. I want to click on this single vertex here in the middle, and then I want to place my 3D cursor right on top of that, because when we bring in our primitive here, this is where I want it to be. So I'm gonna go back to object mode. So nothing's in edit mode selected, and I want to come in here and I want to create a plane like so. I had to scale out so you guys can see how big it is. But what I want to do with this plane is I don't need it to be 2 meters, so I'm just going to scale it down. Actually, I'm going to scale it down a lot. Right here. So 0.01 meters. I want to rotate it on X by 90 degrees. Oh, hold on before I do that. Rotate on X 90. And what I want to do is I want to bring it out. See, it's right on it. It's right on that spot where we set it. Let's go back to edit mode. Let's bring it in on X. And like I said, I'm building this in real time, so I'm kind of looking at the device in my hand. You guys will be looking at you'll likely see reference photos somewhere on the video after I put them in there on post. But I'm looking at how tall this thing is. I'm wanting to try to get that right. It's about like that, and then it comes in some. Why am I doing this in edit mode? So I don't have to change the scale, reset the scale after we're done. I want to create a few loop cuts here, like so. I'm not going to worry about the horizontal loop cuts just yet. And what I want to do right here is I want to bring these guys in on Z, like so. Bring them in quite a bit, actually. And now I want to come in here and do the same with the other 4, but not as much. You guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. And I'm going to scale these out just a little bit. I like that. Right? So we know that this is not going to look like anything yet. But what I want to do, actually, let me extrude this a little bit. About like so. Let's look at face orientation. And the reason why that got flipped was because of how I extruded it. But that's okay. As long as we know how to fix it, that's all that matters, right? This is gonna look jacked up, but Just bear with me. Let me isolate this shape. I'm going to run level 2 sub D on it, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see how this is going to round out up here. Okay, let's take it off. I don't love it. I think it's a little too sharp, so let's do this. Let's grab these two verts up here, grab these two verts down here. I honestly don't think I needed to scale those out as much as I did. Maybe something like this here. I'm just kind of toying with it. Run to level 2 again. Yeah, this looks better. All right, so now let's go here, here, grab all these edges that make up the structure or the shape of this thing. And let's go ahead and bevel these. Let's give these a nice bevel, 2 segment bevel with a shape of 0.5. Okay, and now I can, let's run level 2 again. Let's see what it looks. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I want. So another thing I want to do is right here in these corners, I want to make sure that this is fairly straight. So how do we do that? Best way to do that is come back in here and run some more edge loops. So go to edge select mode. I'm gonna come here and run some loops right up in here like so. Okay, and what I want to do with this loop here, and this, well, let's do them one at a time. Straighten it. And I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up as high as I can. Let's straighten it again. And pull it up too much. Let's just leave it there for now. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's run level 2. Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. Okay, so what these edges are doing here is they're kind of reinforcing that this stays fairly straight here. And where I want the rounding to happen is up here. So just so I don't forget to do it later, I'll go ahead and leave shade smooth on with this piece here. So that's that bottom clip, and this is about what it looks like. And now what we'll do is we're going to copy this, and we are going to create the top clip. So let's go ahead, while we're here, let's actually, before I forget, let's rename this. Let's go model dot mic dot clip dot bottom. And forgive me if you don't like my naming convention, but it comes from the fact that I used to be a software engineer, and this is how I do method chaining naming. So this is just how my brain's wired. If you guys come up with something that you think is simpler or better, then feel free. But let me know in the comments if my naming convention is confusing. But I'm trying to create a hierarchy in the naming too, so you know what goes with what. Let's see. Let's create a new item here by making a copy. And let's see how far out I need to go. So leave it about right there. And then what I want to do is I want to go back here to vertex select mode. And I want to select actually this vertices here, right here. And then I want to move the 3D cursor down to it. And I also want to go up here where we got the pivot point. I want to change it to the 3D cursor. I want to go back into object mode, and then I want to do a rotation here. And if you see, now it's rotating on the 3D cursor. I'm just trying to get the angle, to a place to where it looks right to, at least to me. I think it goes back about right here. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and change the pivot point to the medium point. 3D cursor can go back to the origin. You can just get out of the way. And then what I want to do is I want to take this piece right here and I want to move it back closer to the original here. Barely touching. And then what I want to do is I want to Control A, and then I want to fix the rotation, set it to where that's the rotation for that piece. And then I want to come here and rename it to where it's got model.mic.clip.bottom. I want to change that to top. Okay, so now we're starting to get somewhere with this. So the only thing that's missing from all of this is there's these two little extrusions that's going to come off here where these two connect together, and then there's like a post in between them. There's a post in between them here where that bottom piece of extrusion comes off, and it just kind of holds them together, and then there's a little spring in there, and then the rest of it is just more decorative stuff. But the little grip piece will do that, and then we'll go back down here and finish up the actual microphone itself, because we are missing a key component in the mic. I wouldn't say we're missing it. Let me correct myself. It's not missing, it's just not finished. Is this USB-C port, because like the little post that comes out of that, we need to model that in there. But I've got an idea. It's an easy way of doing it. So that's the direction I'm going to take. And I want to try to get pretty detailed with the USB-C port as well. So before we jump on that, because it's going to be like one of the last things we do, and then I want to put a wind filter up here, the little furry guy that goes over the top of the microphone piece here. And like I said earlier in the video, there's no need to put holes in here because you're never going to see this anyway. And then on part 2 of this video, what we'll do is we'll create shaders for this too. And there's something I'm noticing here. This is why measuring your models is so important. This is a good use case right here to model. Look how small the clips are as compared to the body of the mic. So we didn't measure them, we eyeballed it, but I was eyeballing it from, say, like way zoomed in. But luckily I noticed it, and it's easy to fix. So let's connect up and grab both of these clips here. And let's go to edit mode for both. I want to select both. And let me see. Let me look at this from behind. I want to get this right. So what I want to do is I just want to scale these guys up like so. You see I'm bringing them in some too. Yeah. That'll work. Okay. And then if we look, we don't have to change the scale or rotation. It's all still good. One thing I will do, however, I've noticed here, I think our scale, yep, the scale has it where it's eating into that little base here, so I'm going to bring it out just a little bit. I don't care if it's stuck inside of it. I just don't want to see it here. Okay. All right. So now the bases, now the clips for the base are pretty much good to go. I am going to bring this, well, let me do one other thing. I'm going to bring this guy in just a little bit more. I just want to barely touch it. Yeah, there you go. So I'm done with that part of it. And this looks more accurate. The scale of it all. All right. All right, so we're good with that part. One other thing, tiny housekeeping thing that I noticed is that on the main microphone body here, just need another loop cut right in here. Like so. Actually, you know what? Let me do 2. Yeah, like that. All right, we're good. All right, so now back to these clips here. So the way this thing looks is that there's a piece that's coming out of the base here, the bottom one. So let me go ahead and start with it. And let me turn sub D. Let me just hide sub D. Here's what I want to do. Let me select all of these faces because I want to be smart about this. And I want to inset. I want to bring those in. And I want to select these two. And then these two. I want to bring them back so I can see what I'm doing. And let's bring this out on the local axis here. right here. And let's grab, isolate it again, and let me grab these edges here. Actually, let me see if I can, give me a second here, guys. Let me try something here. Probably should have done this prior to trying to move this, but hey, like I said, we're doing this in real time, so you're getting to see how I would actually do this in real life. So even when you pre-make models before you record videos, you still have to make them for the first time in some cases. All right, I think that's going to kind of give me what I'm trying to do here. All right. Oop. And it may help if I turn it the right way. So I just want to get this as straight as possible. And if you notice that the bottom's not moving the same as the top, we'll just do them independently. So I'm looking at the back here. Because what I'm trying to do essentially here is I'm trying to get this geometry here to be a little straighter. And there's a reason why I'm trying to do that. The reason why I'm trying to do that is because when I make these clips, I want to make sure that we can control the geometry for them a little bit better. All right, let me turn shade smooth off, shade flat. Like I said, I'm used to seeing building blocks here, so kind of what I'm trying to go back to. All right, let's bring everybody back. So now you can see there's a clip in here, and we're gonna have to make something similar on this one here that goes back into here. But I think the way I want to do this is gonna be by making it a little narrower. So I'm gonna bring this inset way in on this one here. Actually, you know what? Let's just do a couple of them. Can't bring it in too much because then you start getting weirdness in your geometry here. And from here, I want to pick out where I want those clips to be. So I'm kind of looking here, and what I'm thinking about doing for this one here is making these clips narrower. That makes sense. So let's try something here. Yep. Yeah. We'll just make them narrower like that. So I'm going to select these two faces, and I'm just going to move them back in this direction. Let me look at it from the top. Bring this one over a little bit more. I don't think these are I don't think these are even close to the same. I can mirror modifier these or do a symmetrize, but I could, but I just don't want to. So we're not going to do that. We just screw with this one here and try to get it close. And for this, I'm okay with close. It doesn't have to be perfect. And the reason why it doesn't have to be perfect is because this is not really going to be seen that much. It's just going to be a hint of it. I'm putting a loop cut here, and this is going to help us on each side get that shape we want. So this is going to help us do the following. Actually, let me see. I may not need those loop cuts, guys. So let's do, I'll tell you what, I know what I want to do. All right, I got a plan. Because now these look too thick. So let's scale these inward towards each other like so. And let's go to Yep, select this edge loop here. Yeah, something about like that. I want it kind of in the middle. Yeah, that's good enough. And let's just do, bam, get it straight like that. That's this. Now we're getting somewhere. All right. So let's grab these here. I want something about like this. Okay. So when I turn sub D back on, let's see what we get. Yeah. So that's getting there. That's getting there. Now, granted, we need to do cleanup and support and all that stuff, but I'm just trying to see the basic shape I'm gonna get. And this is in alignment with what I'm after. So even when I come here, you'll be able to see we'll do something similar on this one, and then we'll tie these two little pieces here, these nubs together, and then I can run a hole through it, and that would be where like the little clips in there holding it. Now, granted, it doesn't look like it's long enough and all that. Fine, that it doesn't matter. We can fix that. I'm just after that basic shape, right? So that's the whole point of doing that part of the exercise. So I'm gonna yet again disable sub D. Actually, nah, I'll just do it from here. I was thinking about why don't I just duplicate this and then turn it around, but nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. All right, so we're good. We're good for what we got right now. Let's save our file. And then what we'll do next is we're going to go ahead and make these little pieces right here for this top clip, and then try to align it to where they're going to be touching. And then we'll go back in and do support loops, bevels, and that sort of thing, so we can restrict how much sub D is not only sizing things down or inward, because you know many of my videos I liken it to like the whole hand analogy. Like you got a hand that's like in a claw, but it's not really tight, it's kind of relaxed, and then when you run sub D on it, it shrinks it down into more like a fist. It's like this invisible barrier around it that's pulling it inward, because what it's trying to do is round everything off, which is, like I've said many times, it's probably a terrible analogy, but that's exactly how I see it in my head. So anyway, enough yapping on my part. Let's go ahead and let's start finishing this up. Trying to figure out where I want to start this here. Thinking that face and this face here. And what we want to do, we'll extrude these on their normal axis here. So like that. Yeah. And let's see. Let's run some loops. Okay. This now allows us to go in here in edge select mode. Let me disable sub D real quick, and let me pull back out of here so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. You know what? We don't need to straighten out that geometry, so that's good. That's good to know. All right. So while I'm in here, now that we've got that straightened out, let me turn this off for a sec. And let's go in here. I want to select these edges around here, around this little piece here. And I want to do the same here. And I'm going to show you what we're doing, and I'm gonna let you see it take effect. So I'm gonna go and make a bevel here. Yeah, see it tighten up. Nice little bevel right there. Okay, so I brought a cylinder in and sized it and reset the scale and rotation, and just kind of sized it up and just kind of did it offline just to, help the video to be a little bit less long. So one thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and do a Boolean operator on here, because what I want to do is I want to cut the object from here. So let's go ahead and click the base. Actually, let's click this guy. And let's hide the cylinder like so. You see we got a nice cut through there. So we're good on that. So what I want to do now is come here and essentially do the same thing. I want to come here and I want to create a new modifier, a Boolean, like so. And then I want to use the cylinder to cut a hole through there. And notice I just chose the area up here where the name was, because it's hidden. And see, it should line those holes up perfectly. And as you see, it does, because we're using the same shape that we used before. And what you can do, what we can do is just come up here and let's go ahead and apply it to this shape here. Oh, that's not pretty. Actually, let's go back. Let's not apply it, because in order to apply it and make it look right, we would have to apply the sub D, and I don't want to do that yet. Same here. What we can do is go back here to the cylinder though, and let's turn it back on just to make sure our cut is a little bit nicer. Let's go ahead and put some loop cuts in here. Let's get about a 32. Yeah, that ought to be good there. And what you'll notice is when we hide this and hide it from the render, so it doesn't render, now you notice inside the holes here, we have like some nice loop cuts in here because it's inheriting that from the cylinder that we had in there. So now this part of the whatchamacallit is done. What I do want to do, just so we can see that there's something in there, I don't want there just to be an open hole. Let's duplicate the cylinder. Actually, give me a second. Let me cut the cylinder back on. I want to duplicate it and pop it back so it makes cylinder 01. We want to see it, and we want to be able to render it out. So let's go ahead and edit mode. Let's look at the back view here, and what I want to do is just kind of scale this whole thing in like so. Turn around and look, and as you can see, what all I'm trying to do is get it where we can see it here and here. Let's move it on X just a hair, like that. That work? Yep. And I want to round the edges of this thing off just a little bit so we can see what we're working with. Because it doesn't need to be so perfectly straight, because in the real world it won't be. So grab that edge. Actually, before I do that, let's do this. Let's deal with the faces first, and then I'll come back to and then I'll come back and clean that edge up. So what I want to do is I want to do an inset. Let me see here, guys. An inset here, and an inset here. Okay, so that looks good. So now let's come back to edge mode. And you know me, I'm not going to leave that ink on there if I can help it. But we don't need to deal with it just a second. And let's do this edge. Let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing. And I'll just put a nice little bevel up here, like so. It just adds a nice roundness to it. I'm going to delete these faces. And I want to come back in here. And I want to grid fill it. Doesn't need to be perfect. It'll look nicer if it is nice. You just go ahead and change the offset. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't change the geometry one way or another. Okay. Like so. And there we go. And then what do we want to call this? I'm going to call this, let's see, model.mic.clip dot pin, PIN, and then I want to move it in our mic collection. This right here, I'm going to put it in a different collection. I'm going to call it a new collection. I'm going to call this a cutter, because this is a shape that we use, and then I'm just going to make it red like so. All right, we'll save that out. So now we are, other than the spring, we're done with these clips here. There's your little pin in there like so, and then there's your two little pieces. We actually have actual holes in there, which really didn't have to do the hole. We could have just done it without the hole. I just wanted to show you how to do the hole if you had something where you needed to do a hole, like a model or something in the future, just to show you how to do it. Okay, so we're done with these pieces here. Let me take a look, see something here real quick. Yeah, we're good. All right. And then what we'll do, actually, you know what I want to do now, might as well just go ahead and do it now. Let's go ahead and hit this top piece right here, and let's grab these 4 faces. Actually, before I do that, let's grab this face, and this face. Get them straight. Let's bring them down to where it's roughly in the center. Now grab all 4 and let's inset a little bit like so. And then let's run loop tools and make a circle. Scale it so we don't have overlapping vertices here. And then I want to take this and then bring it in. And then from here, I want to bring it back inside like so. Just very subtly. And then I want to select this edge right here, and I want to bevel this edge out just a little bit. Like that. Something like that. And that's going to make that little grippy piece where you stick your finger on there to push down to get the leverage to pull this off. We could do the little teeth. There's like 2 or 3. Let me see. I'm looking at the model now. There's literally 3 pieces of plastic that are extruding up that are teeth on each side. Well, there's 3 on one, 4 on the other. Up to you guys if you want me to make it. If you want me to go back and make it later, leave it in the comments. I don't think we're going to see it. So just like I said in one of my videos, why make stuff, if you're not going to see it, because all is going to happen is a computer, when it goes to render, it's going to load all that in RAM. It's just going to make your model heavier. And if you're never going to see it, then it's just unnecessary geometry. So now, other than the spring, we're done with the clip. You know what? On second thought, I changed my mind about modeling those teeth. So let's just do it. Why not, right? This is going to be pretty easy. So let's go face select. Actually, let me apply the sub D, and let's apply the Boolean on this. That'll give me a lot more geo to work with. And I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3. I think this one may. Let me look at the model again here, see which was which. So this one only had 3. So let's do 1, 2, and 3. And let's see. And let's scale these bad boys up like so. And what I want to do is I want to size these. Let's do individual origins like so. And then all I need to do here is basically create a bevel around all of these. Grab these faces here. And I'm literally going to do the same thing. Just tightening them up. They don't need to be overly engineered. Boom, something like that. So now we got Got shading issues here. And I think I see why. Hold on 1 second, guys. Let me go back. That's the nice thing about you guys seeing this in real time is you're able to see me solution things in real time too. So let's go back. Let's inset. Then let's pull these up like so. Then let's scale these in on X like so. Actually, scale these in on Y as well. Hold on. Oop. On Z, I meant. And let's handle this through edge select. And all I'm wanting to do here is I want to put nice little bevels on these. Like this. Boom, like so. And then just to make it nice, put little edge loops here. Okay. There you go. There's your teeth. There's teeth on one of them. Now for the bottom one, that one had 4. So let's see where these 3 are, and then this one would have had 4 on that side. So let's do the same thing here. Let's apply the sub D, and let's apply the boolean as well to the base. So now this is all real geo in here. So, and let's see if we can figure out where I want these. 1, 2. I'm gonna kind of skip around a little bit just to give me a second here, guys. Figure out where I want to put that other one. Yeah, right here. Something like that. And let's scale on X. And let's scale on Z. Okay. Let's do the edge select deal here. Like I said, all I want to do is show that there's some teeth in there. Oh, you know what? Forgot something important. Let's go back. Got to do something very important, guys. Inset. All right, now let's pull these out. Okay. Now we can go back in here and do this. There we go. So this makes more sense now. And I'll either show myself selecting all these or I'll trim this for the video. Like I said, it just, you know, it's like some of these operations that you do in modeling is almost like watching paint dry. And I'd rather not be doing that. All right, good stuff. All right, cool. Let's bring it back. So now we got teeth in there that nobody's really gonna see, but at least we all feel good about ourselves and we know that it's in there. So, all right, there's that. I hope that was useful. I feel like I burned 10 minutes going over something that we're not really is not really going to be very useful to us. So now the next thing to do is to figure out this whole spring deal here. So what I want to do is I'm going to take a pretty good look at this spring and then start figuring out like how we want to go about modeling that in there. And I'm not likely going to create a perfect spring. I just want to get the illusion that there's a spring type of thing in there. Just enough to pass it off if the camera were to actually ever hit this model in an area where it would like possibly with lighting catch some of it, because it's going to be kind of a shadowy area. But in the event it caught some of this, I'd like for it to be seen and the user very quickly can see that, oh, there's a spring in there. Wow, that's a lot of detail. So that's the game plan. Okay, now we're going to come in here and I'm going to make the little spring that goes in the back of the clip. So let's start by coming in here and let's create a circle. 32 vertices is fine, but it doesn't need to be 1 meter. So I'm going to scale it down quite a bit. And we want to make sure we align it with the view so we can see it. Okay. And give me a second here to make sure I see it. Ah, there it is. It's massive. So let's scale that thing way down. We don't need it that big. Make it maybe about that big there. And we'll still end up probably scaling. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and make it as small as we can get it. Something about like that. And I want to move the 3D cursor over here away from it. Actually, maybe put 3D cursor up here on this line best I can. And then I want to come out of edit view here. Let's move the circle up. Can I get the origin right there on that x-axis? And then what I want to do is I want to come over here and let's double check where that circle got put. So it got put in the cutter collection. I don't want it in there. I want it in the scene collection. All right, so now after I've named that file, what we're going to do is kind of come in here, and in order to make this circle, I'm going to use a modifier called a screw modifier. So first thing I want to do is I want to use the 3D cursor as a pivot point. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click and basically create a line segment, because it's going to be the thing that we use to dictate how the screw modifier is to operate. So you'll see what I'm going to do here in a second. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select that circle. And now let's go ahead and generate that screw modifier. So what I want to do is I want to use that line segment as an axis for the object. And notice it looks like a donut, which is good because we're going to move it on the z-axis. And when I actually change the screw value, that actually makes it to where it wraps around or coils around. So since it's so small, because we scaled it down so small, I'm just manually going to add in some values, and I'm going to stick with something that looks pretty close to what that screw, not screw, but that spring looks like inside of this microphone device. And it's pretty tight. So there's going to be a little overlap in geo, but like I said, you're not going to see this. But I'd rather get those looping springs looking like it does on the actual device. All right, so let's go ahead after I get these values in here, one thing I want to do is go ahead and apply this effect, because if you don't and you go moving things around, it will shift and change because it's still reading the data from the from that segment and from the 3D cursor. So I've applied it. Let's go ahead and name it. So we're going to call this model.mic.spring. And what I want to do is go ahead and put it into place on our model. All right, so let's change the view so we can see what we're doing here. All right, so I'm just kind of moving it into place here. And as you can see, it's going to require that we size it down quite a bit. So let's go into edit mode and just scale this spring down quite a bit. And what we want it to do is we want it to essentially coil around that bar right there. And just keep scaling it down. It's okay to eyeball it. It's not going to be perfect, but like I said, you're barely going to see it. But if we ever use this model for something where you get a shot of it and light happens to hit the metal of that spring, we want to be able to see that there's at least a spring there. It's just going to add a bit of detail to the realism of this. So it's not long enough, it's not wide enough, and I don't want to stretch it because it won't look good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an array modifier. And that's going to keep the same perspective it has now, but it's just going to create another duplicate of it. And let me check. I think I might be on the wrong axis. Hold on. Yep, that's what it is. Let me go ahead and fix this. Get it on the right axis. Yeah, like that. And then what I want to do is, if you see where that cutoff is, I just want to line that up. You can see a bit of a seam there. I'm not totally sure if you would see this when we render it, but just to be safe, I'm going to rotate this spring around, and so we don't see that at all. Just give me a second here. Let me change the origin of my geometry. Okay, now I should be able to rotate this on the x-axis and hide it. Like so. All right. And let's go ahead and commit and apply that modifier. And I want to apply the rotation and scale. Now the spring isn't finished. The spring does require a piece that comes off. I guess it's like it comes off the coil piece and it forms an L shape. It's kind of like a retention piece because it snugs up against the plastic clip. There's one on each clip, and it's the piece when you push down on the clip, that little L shape has retention against it, and it allows the spring to tension and release. And it's the thing that keeps the clips at this shape right here. So what I want to do is I want to extend the spring out to show that piece that I'm going to call it the retention piece. I really don't know what it's actually called, but it is part of the spring. So that's what we're going to build out and extend onto the shape right now. I'm still scaling it down first, just to get it as close as I can, because I noticed that the back side of this was kind of eaten into one of the clips, so I don't want it doing that. So I'm just taking my time and getting it right. All right. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. So I'm using the annotation tool here, and I'm trying to draw this out to kind of show you what the plan is. So there's a piece that's going to come down here shaped like an L, and then there's one at the top that's going to be shaped like an L. But I did forget when I was doing this that once you change the perspective of the view, then the annotation is kind of locked into space and it doesn't track with the view. So that was absolutely worthless to show you guys that. So my apologies. You're just going to see me do it. So gonna go in here. I'm going to move the cursor out of the way so I can kind of see what I'm doing here, and I want to figure out how I want to tackle this retention part of the spring. And the game plan is to do one side of it at a time. All right, so first of all, of course, I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to select this this edge loop here, and what we're going to do is we're going to extrude this out and we're going to shape it. It's not going to be perfect, but we can clean it. We can clean it up after we do it. All right, let's go in here in the side view, and I just need the side view more or less as a guide. Okay. I basically created a mental model of the rest of the geometry, even though I had to hide it so I could see what I'm doing. But I know where that base plate is roughly in my head. As you see, I'm going to follow it down and then bring it over. Okay, now let's change the view here to the back view, and let's hide let's hide that top clip so we can see what we're doing here. And I just want to bring it over to just to convey that shape. Like I said, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect because nobody's going to even see this. Well, let me rephrase that. It is highly unlikely somebody's going to see that. In the event that they do, however, we've got it built. So, and I want to show you guys how to build it. And if you notice, like, the geometry is eating into the clip, so let's grab some edge loops here and let's gently move it off. Yeah, and that don't look real pretty. The reason why it doesn't is because of sub D. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back in here and just do this properly. So let's go ahead and create an Ingon, fill that with an Ingon. Then I'm going to do an inset, do another inset. And let's create a support loop. And that's going to tighten it up so we don't get that weird bending. See, as you can see right there on that edge. And then I'm looking at the rest of it. Granted, I know it's eating into the geometry a little bit, and I'll move it out the best I can, but I'm not gonna drive myself crazy over it. So I'm just gonna move it out a little bit. And what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get that shape a little bit more away from the top of that clip, just so it looks right. So now I'm going in X-ray mode and I'm just finessing it a little bit. So I'm gonna grab some of these edges. And I'm just going to try to bulk move them. And now I can see where it's kind of screwy. And like I said, I mean, for the sake of this model, this is kind of burning the time clock here. For something so minor as this, because you're not going to be able to see this level of detail ever in this spring, not at this point of it. However, the whole purpose of me doing it and going through this headache is just to make sure that I can show you guys, if you really want it to be right, how to go in there and just be able to be patient and take your time and just kind of finesse this thing until you get it to where it looks good. So I'm going to add in some extra loops here just to help with the geometry. Okay. And of course, I'm not going to leave the Ingon there. So I deleted that Ingon, and I'm going to come in here and select this edge loop here, and I'm going to grid fill it, and then I'm going to change the offset to where it's just straight. All right, so now we have to do this again for the other side. So we bring that top clip back so I can kind of get a good look as to where that retention clip on this side should go. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the spring is pointing upward towards the top clip. Let me see. Can't really tell because it clips in the way, but I think it is. Yep, it was. So you can see right here when we made this, the geometry is eating into itself a little bit. That's okay. Doesn't matter here because nobody's seeing it. And the spring coil itself looks accurate. So let's repeat the same process again here. All right. So I went ahead and I did this offline, just, you know, keep the video from you guys from being bored to death watching me do this part. So it's already done here. So now we're going to move on to the next thing. I'm just kind of giving it a quick look over to make sure everything looks clean and looks good. And as you can see, there's that top part. So as far as I'm concerned now, the clips are done. We're finished there. We've got sub D applied. We've got our booleans applied. We've got the clip in there. We've got the little bar and then all of the extra details. So now let's come back to the body and let's do some geometry cleanup and tweaking work. You know, on second thought, let's tackle this. Before we do that, let's go ahead and tackle this USB-C port. So what I want to do is I want to create a little bit of detail in this thing because I want to make sure that port looks like it has that ring of metal or aluminum that goes around it. And then put the, then I want to make sure that we go ahead and put the little post in there. But before we do that, now that I'm looking at the model, this port is a little bit bigger than what we have allocated for it here. So I'm grabbing these verts right here and I'm just scaling this down and getting the scale of the port more accurate. And I'm just kind of relaxing out some of the verts here for the geometry, so they don't run any risk of any kind of tessellation issues. Not that we would. I mean, we got about 50 miles between these vertices, so I think we're good. But, you know, just to be safe. And some of these I'm just going to straighten them up, like this one, and then the one up above it. I just want them straight. Just visually, it's more appealing to look at it when you're working on it. Now, granted, we won't see any of this when we render. But while you're working on the model, this is just a little bit visually more appealing and it's just easier and quicker to see stuff. So that's why I did it. Can I change that? Yeah, okay, we're good. We're good. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start focusing on adding in or modeling in some detail to this port. So like I said, that I want one ring to be that aluminum ring that you see on that port. So I'm going to do an inset when I select that bottom portion there. I'm going to extrude it out. I'm going to inset it again, extrude it back in. That creates that outer ring of that metal. Okay, and I'm just going to bring that back in as deep as it needs to go. So just that quick, we created that outer ring. All right, so now I want to put my cursor in this area where I want to bring in some geometry to create that little post. And I think the quickest way of doing that without trying to model it from this piece here is just to bring in a cube. And notice I'm in edit mode, so I'm just going to bring the cube directly in while this is in edit mode, and this is going to become part of this geometry. So I never, so in other words, I never went back to object mode. I stayed in edit mode while editing the body of the microphone. And then I added in new geometry. So when we come out of edit mode back in object mode, this new cube that we've added in will be part of this geometry. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of going back and forth looking at the actual mic and then making edits, because like I said, I'm modeling this in real time. This is not, I didn't do a practice run because the first version of this model I did make did not have any of this detail in it. It was just very quick, low poly version, just so I could get the thumbnail done. But you guys are, the video is actually like the more detailed version of it. Okay, while I'm in here, let's go ahead and do our bevel so we don't have to come back in here and play with it anymore. So I'm gonna be done with this little post. I'm gonna run some edge loops in here as well. And I want to put one here on the top too. Let me go back. Yeah, let's go put one in the top. Bam, right there. All right, so now what we have to do, let me turn these little gizmos off because I do find them distracting sometimes. Now what we have to do is we gotta look at this with sub D on and see how well it's going to round the port itself up there at the top. And I wanna get a good idea of what that's gonna look like here in a second. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it, looking at it, looking for any issues that may arise. So far, it looks pretty good. All right, so now let's do some geometry cleanup. So I'm just adding in support loops and bevels wherever I need to. So when we run sub D on the body, we can be assured that the it's going to keep the structural integrity of the shapes that we've created in here. So remember, like I've said in many videos, sub D is like a global rounding of everything, and the reason why we're making edge loops and bevels is to restrict where it rounds it. So we're kind of taking everything, rounding it off, and then we're, slowly saying, okay, don't round here or only round by this much. It's a restriction we're adding on the rounding. And that's why I'm going in here and doing this. Hope that made sense. I'm going here and change the profile to this bevel here because it's almost like a chamfer. But I don't want to add a level of 1 and create an extra chamfer. I actually want an extra loop cut in there. And then now I want to bevel those two edges to make sure that they're pretty sharp. Okay. And I'm just looking at everything where I don't have bevels, and I'm making sure I have the appropriate bevels there. If that makes sense. Then we'll put a little support loop here, and here, and here. And the only reason why I'm doing that is I'm actually trying to get roughly somewhat even size faces in certain parts of the model. They don't need to be even faces everywhere in this case, but in certain parts of the smile, I want them fairly even. So you have good distribution of geometry. Just makes the model cleaner and it lessens the chances of you having like weird artifacts, which you've seen in this video a couple times when I model stuff. We've had artifacts in different places and had to figure out how to fix them. Luckily, most of the problem was related to the fact we didn't have enough geometry. And Sub D kind of came in and saved the day in a lot of areas. So let's go ahead and tackle this part right here. I don't want to run a bevel on this because if you look at the actual object, it's not beveled really hard. I do want to bevel it up here near the top because it's pretty defined here. But where the base part of this actually touches the body, I want to run a crease on that. That way I can, it's non-destructive and I can handle it a little bit better. And while we're in here, let's just go ahead and clean this guy up. Run nice little bevels here. I want those edges to be pretty defined when we run Sub D on this piece. Okay. And I'm just kind of going in and making sure that all of these edges that I want to have this bevel effect are selected prior to me actually beveling. And if you notice, I'm getting in those edges down there that are in the previous bevel that I had just done that's down near the bottom. I want to make sure those bevel in too, because it'll be like nice looking, like so. And I'm going to change the miter outer to arc. So it's just a little bit cleaner bevel. All right. And I want to turn level 2 Sub D on, and I just want to see what it looks like around that edge there where that extrusion comes off the body and we start seeing the clip. That's that piece I was talking about. I'm probably going to end up doing something different there. While I'm in here, just to tighten up this base plate here, let's go in and select all these faces. And let's do an inset. Do a couple of them. That's just going to reinforce that shape. And you'll see that I try to do an inset here, which I probably should have done an outset, but I realized I really didn't need to do it. I don't know what I was thinking. But I'll let you see it anyway, because I did try to do that and it just didn't work. Because it was what it was doing was it was causing the geometry of this plate to kind of pop up, and it wasn't what I was wanting. So you'll see, I eventually realized, okay, that's not going to work. So, and I like I said, I didn't need to do it either. I mean, you guys can see the video, you can see what's happening. So right there, I'm like, I'm done and don't realize it. I really just didn't need to screw with it. All right. All right, now finally, that's done. So let's come back out, take a look at this. And I'm looking for areas where I might be able to make some adjustments on some things. And I want to push this in a little bit more because when we turn sub D on everything, notice sub D will shrink things down and change positioning of things somewhat. It's minor, but it does do it. And I'm just tweaking where I want those clips to start from. So what I'm doing now is I'm selecting all these and I'm going to start parenting all of these to the clip. So you can see over there in the outliner, I've got everything selected. The clip is the one that's in orange, it is the parent. And I'm going to just start parenting all of that stuff to the clip object. And then I'm going to parent the clip object to the body or the model.mic object. And that way, if we go to moving stuff around, it all move together. So now all that's parented. So now what I want to do is tackle this power button down here because it needs some love. Let me disable sub D so I can select that edge loop. Because I just want the selection to be a little bit more pronounced, but it bevels off really nice. It's nice and clean. So I'm just going to use a crease, and I'm just holding down shift so I'm not changing it as drastically, and I'm just finessing it. Just like so. That is really nice. And if you look, you'll see that there's some weird artifacting. We'll address it here in a second. So I'm straightening up some loops here. So let's go back up here where I've been fooling with this for like past 5 minutes, and let's go ahead and address this here by doing the same technique by creasing it. So I'm just kind of looking at that edge over there because that edge is worrying me a little bit because those verts are really close together. And it just looks a little tight. Yep. So I'm going to address this vertices right here, this vertex right here, just kind of sticking off on the side. I'm just going to bring it in just a hair. Just make sure it looks nice and clean. Check the other side, because if the one side was screwed up, there's a good chance the other one is as well. And if you notice, this one didn't work. This one didn't work out as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back. I'm going to backtrack, and I'm going to select both of those vertices at the same time and just scale them in on X. And voila, that fixed it. All right, so I'm good with that. Yep, that's pretty clean. And I'm just checking for bevels and that sort of thing, right? And what I want to do is I want to tighten this up just a little bit where this button is. I'm going to tighten that edge up just a hair. It's a little mushy, a little muddy looking, so I just want to make sure it's a very precise and clean edge there. So instead of running a crease, I do actually want to run a bevel here. Yeah, that looks nice. And let's grab the button itself and do the same. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That looks really good. But one thing I'm noticing there is I'm noticing shading issue because you got a pole. So that vertices right there is a pole. And I'm just kind of pulling it out just to see what it looks like. But I've got all quads, so I know that's not the problem. The problem ended up being there's just not enough geometry there. And I'm stretching that face too much. So the solution I came up with to fix it, after I start moving all these verts around thinking that was going to clean it up, is I ended up just going up another level with my sub D. So I went from a level 2 to a level 3, and that solves the problem, as you'll see here in a second. You can really see it now when you turn this this material on. This is a great material for seeing shading issues in your geometry. But that's what's causing it, those two poles. And the fact that I don't have enough geo. And there's other ways I could have fixed this, but the easiest and quickest way I could think of at the time was just to, go to a level 3. And that definitely solved the problem. I could have probably done weighted normals as well. But yeah. So now I'm running a level 3 on here, and if you notice, that really tightened everything up. So now I'm going to come back in here and I want to add a little bit more detail to this USB-C port. So what I need to do is, because everything is being rounded, I need to come in here and make sure these walls or these sides of it are a little have some reinforcement on them, so we know that they're straight. And then just adding in some detail. What I'm trying not to do is I'm trying not to select everything down there in that little crevice, because it's really tight in there, and it's really hard to select stuff in there unless you go to X-ray mode, and then you have to spray and pray, if you will, and make sure that you selected the right thing. And depending on the level of detail you have, it can be a nightmare really quick, as you can kind of see here. So I'm just adding some crease on these, and I'm going to go back and turn sub D on and kind of give it a good look to see if it's helped. It's helped a little bit for sure. Those sides aren't bowing out anymore. They're more straight now. But we got to get the inside as well. We've got to get these edges here. And what you can see is it's doing what I want it to do, but the problem is I don't have enough edges selected, because it's just hard to dig down in there and get that stuff. I mean, you can do it, but what I decided to do, without, like I said, burning another 10 minutes trying to trying to get all those edges for this tutorial, I just decided not to affect it as much. But you'll see, I'll still get it to work. So now to do something similar on the inside here. And then that way it won't look so rounded and mushy on the inside of this port, where the vertices and the geometry are like kind of snugged up on the little post in there. I'm still selecting edges. And now you can see it's tightening everything up where it looks real clean. And I'm happy with that. Just kind of looking it all over. You can see those sides are fairly straight too. Okay, so I'm gonna save my file. And this looks pretty good. I want to make sure to apply shade smooth. All that looks good. Got quite a bit of detail in this model. And what I want to show you is, because of the way we built it this way, if we wanted to, we can come here and do the clip and we can rotate it. So I don't have it rigged up to rotate because see the axis is off a little bit of where it's rotating on that axis. But the point is, we built it so that we can do that later. Now for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to go into all of that, like rigging it up or fooling with all of that and changing it. But I just wanted to show you guys, like that's the methodology in which, at least for me, I use a lot of times when I'm building stuff. I'll build things in a way or model things in a way so that if I have to move it or rotate something or pivot on something later, I can. So let's go ahead and create this wind filter. So I'm going to bring in a quad sphere, and all I want to do right now is just scale it down. We're almost done with this tutorial. I think this might end up being the longest one I've done yet. But hopefully you guys learned something out of it if you've been able to stick with it. So I'm just gonna scale this down so when I remove some of these faces off of this quad sphere, it's gonna pretty much make the right size hole for that neck of that microphone. Delete these faces, and let's see what we got. Let's see how good we may have nailed it, or at least gotten it close. Probably didn't nail it, but hopefully we got it close. Yeah, it's pretty close. I can live with it. I can definitely live with that. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a name. So I'm going to call it model.mic.windfilter. Okay, so now I want to go in and create a particle system. I'm going to select hair. I'm going to change the length to 2 meters. Correction, 0.5 meters. I'm just kind of screwing with the hair length here because I don't know how long it needs to be yet. And I'm going back and forth and looking at it, looking at the actual microphone in my hand. And then I'm going to Cycles because I trust Cycles. What Cycles is giving me a lot more than what I trust the Viewport when it comes to particle effects. So I'm just trying to get the hair length right before we start changing any other settings. here. So feel free to look at this section right here and copy the settings that I put in here. But I'm just going to let you guys watch me make these setting changes here. And that pretty much looks like it. I mean, the hair is a little bit straight, but we're going to deal with that here in a second as well. But in terms of the size of it, that looks accurate. All right, so I've added in an HDRI so you can get some good lighting on this now. And then I'm going back into the particle emitter for the hair on the wind filter. And I don't want to do any clumping or anything like that. I do want to change the hair follicle size. So if you go under hair shape, that's where you can change that. You can make it thinner or thicker. I tell you, if you make it too thick, though, it'll look like you'll see what it is. And actually, these are curves. You'll be able to clearly see it. So I made them a lot thinner. And for this example, I don't need to mess with the fill weights because we're going to style it. Okay, let me save my file. Let's go back in here and then let's go under, make sure I got the right thing selected. Let's go up in here and go to particle edit. And the first icon over on the left looks like a little comb. Well, I can come in here and change the size of my brush and basically style this like you would a hairstyle for a character model. But I can do it with this little filter too. And the key to this is, and I haven't totally mastered it, but the key is don't hit this like with a sledgehammer. Like, be very gentle with your styling. And what I try to do is take the edge of my brush and make some changes here and there. And you see I'm hitting it kind of heavy. It may not look like I'm hitting it heavy to you, but trust me, for me, this is hitting it heavy. But I'm doing this on purpose because I'm going to show you a little trick here in a second. So I'm just kind of styling this hair a little bit. Not spending a whole lot of time on any of it. Because I'm going to show you what to do is if you're not happy with the work you just did, styling it. And see, you can trim hair too, but the thing about this tool for me, and I just haven't mastered it yet. I know how it works. I know how to use it, but I haven't mastered actually using it. This is like a 100% opacity eraser tool, essentially. Like I see my strength is at 100, but probably what I need to do is get better at just like turning it down to maybe like 20% and just being very careful about it. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't really love it. I'm gonna show you guys how to wipe it out and redo it. So I can keep coming in here and editing it. Still don't love it. So the trick is, what you want to do is you want to come out of edit mode. You want to go back to object mode. And then you want to go into particle effects panel and see where it says delete edit. You can delete edit and then it goes right back to the default where it was when we first put our attributes in. Now I can go back to particle edit and then I can go ahead and really style this to look more like the wind filter does on the mic. And I'm intentionally trying to add in randomness and a little bit of disorder and chaos into this hair without getting crazy. I'm being very subtle. And you guys will see the difference once I'm done. And I'm changing the strength on my brush. Notice I'm kind of focusing my attention on on the edges of the hair. I'm not brushing it. In other words, I'm not brushing in the middle. I'm staying right on the edge for the most part. And I'll hide the HDRI here in a second. Give me a second. And see, this looks better. This looks more like the real thing here. Okay, so let's go into our settings and go into film and then hit transparent. That'll make the background transparent. And we'll only pick up the light from the HDRI. So let's zoom in and see what we have. Turn all of the information off so we can actually see the model. This looks pretty good. You can see what kind of detail we have. We're done modeling this. So this is part 1 of a part 2 series. Part 2, we're going to go in here and we're going to create materials for all of these pieces. And then we're going to render it. But for now, this looks good. See how clean those edges are? See how clean those bevels are? And I'm gonna show you how to do the artwork for this LED screen too, or LCD screen. And then I'm even gonna show you how to do materials for the hair to mimic the reference photos that you saw earlier in the video. But that's it. Good job, guys. You have yet created another model. Before we go though, I want you to see how clean this is, the little microphone part. Granted, like I said, we didn't put in the holes because nobody's going to see them, so it'd been wasted time. But I just wanted you guys to see how good this looks too. But yeah, good job, guys. In part 2, like I said, we'll do materials and render, and look forward to seeing that post soon. Hopefully, I'll get it done before the end of this week. But if you like my content, I know this one was a little bit long, but this was a lot more detailed. But if you like my content, please like and subscribe and tell your friends, and we'll all get to doing blendering together. Thanks a lot, guys, and see you in the next video soon.